hey, you're going to be in a high stress environment. You may even be in a combat environment. What does that look like? How do you, in your context, operate in that space?
Stay tuned. Coming up, it's my interview with Jeff Banman from the Operational Mindset Foundation. But first, let's hear from our amazing sponsor, Midwest Fire. Every day, the hardworking men and women at Midwest Fire build the most reliable firefighting apparatus to be found anywhere. Their customers know a well-built fire engine means lives and property saved. Midwest Fire, a factory direct manufacturer dedicated to helping you extinguish fire before it becomes a raging beast. To learn more about what fuels their passion, visit MidwestFire.com. Hello and welcome to episode 322 of the Situational Awareness Matters show. I'm your host, Rich Gassaway. The purpose of this show is to help to improve situational awareness and decision making for individuals and teams who work in high risk, high consequence, time compressed environments with changing conditions. The SA Matters mission is simple. We want to help you see the bad things coming in time to prevent bad outcomes. Today's feature segment is sponsored by our new online program offerings, Gassaway Virtual Training. We now have 33 training programs for your members. Some of these programs are live events presented virtually, and some of them are pre-recorded programs. To learn more, visit samatters.com website and click on the Virtual Training tab. In case you missed it, I hosted a live virtual training program on Saturday, May 2nd called How Smart Responders Use Situational Awareness to Improve High-Risk Decision-Making. This program is now part of the virtual training programs offered on the platform, so check it out. All right, let's jump into today's feature segment, my interview with Jeff Banman from Operational Mindset Foundation. Welcome to the Situational Awareness Matters show. I'm with Jeff Banman, who is the executive director and host of Mindset Radio. Jeff had me on a guest on his podcast some time ago. I don't remember exactly how long ago, but maybe a year or so ago. And I was so impressed with his perspective on the operational mindset that I wanted to have him on as a guest. And I'm glad you're able to join me today, Jeff, for a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely, Rich. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Let's start off by having you tell me a little bit about your background and you know where you've been and what you've done and what's brought you to where you're at today.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's been interesting. It's been pretty eclectic. That's been a lot of it. So I actually started in the fire service at age 16, just outside the Washington, D.C. area, so Northern Virginia. For those that know it, Loudoun County was actually I think now the 14th career firefighter hired in Loudoun County in the early 90s. And I think they're 600 or something now. You know, all my buddies are chiefs, you know, or getting ready to retire, really, because we're all old now. So that was my introduction. I mean, it was a big deal for me. I think it was a big catalyst for me. And when looking back, I ran my first full-scale exercise at the age 17. I went down, found an empty building, Roscoe smoked it up, got permission to run lines, live lines through it, a whole 9 yards, took the old Circle D lights, right, around the smoke, made it look like there was glow in the back. And that was my life at 17. I loved it. I lived at the firehouse 24/7, basically, and then got hired right after high school. But a few years in, kind of got a little bored. I was like, okay, is this going to be it? And that's kind of my nature. Met a recruiter who had just transitioned out of 1st Ranger Battalion, got kind of excited about it, thought that sounded like a really good idea. Little did I know. And served my Army time, 3rd Ranger Battalion, and then a reconnaissance unit out of Fort Bragg. Was part of the first guys on the ground in Kosovo in 99 when the Serbs invaded. And then transitioned out of the military, went back to the fire service, Ended up as part of the response to the Pentagon on the 11th. And then, within a short time after that, we were working some programs and got recruited by CIA to come work for them. So I spent a decade there, traveling the world and running a lot of counterterrorism operations. And then this is where it kind of all came to a head for me in the last couple of years when I stopped traveling so much and was really focused on some of the training and some of the development of our people. We were having a consistent and significant problem with training scars, with people that are not tactical people, should not be tactical people, should not even remotely look like they know what to do with a gun, being trained in a way that was creating signatures. So, for instance, if they're out in the world, pick up a gun with a straight finger around certain people, they're going to know they were trained. And that creates a disconnect in their ability to perform. And so that was the catalyst. That was a huge deep dive into human behavior, into understanding why we do certain things. I used biofeedback mechanisms and really did an analysis of heart rate variability and understanding minute shifts in stress during that time, and really started to create an architecture that later became the human performance learning protocol, which was how to design scenarios in a highly effective way so that you could actually observe behaviors in what could be real world environments rather than just the checklist. Can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do this? And then out of that programming developed the course Operational Mindset. And then, ran out and did a company for a while doing that stuff, and have circled back around now and created the Operational Mindset Foundation because I kind of got challenged to push to say what matters today. And I feel like there's a lot of great organizations doing a lot of after the fact work, a lot of, cleanup work. And I think we can have a better conversation earlier. And so that's really the focus point today is training development, mentally and emotionally prepared to step into harm's way and then come home and live a full life. You and I talked about this on the show. We don't have to wait till the end of our career to be like, oh, now I can take care of myself. There's a different way to approach it. So that's where Operation Mindset has evolved to. And that's what we do as part of the foundation.
So what does that work look like today? As far as, kind of paint the picture for me as to how that
functions.
Yeah. How's it function?
Well, it's functioning today very differently than it was.
Well, I didn't mean today, like in the middle of a pandemic.
Right.
Maybe we could back that question up to January.
Actually, this, Rich, I will tell you, this has been great because I think so. In normal context, it had looked like the podcast, which is a great, way to be out there. Some online component work, but primarily scheduling time, in front of at the stations or at the different departments or at the regions and delivering these programs. That's not happening. And so it caused me to take a real look at how we can do it better. So actually, as of today, the past few weeks, I brought in some great instructional designers, and we're moving all the programming into an online format, but not a typical online format. We're doing it so it can be used as in-station training or be, integrated into like roll call training for the law enforcement community. You can take advantage of it sitting in your patrol car, and it creates the conversation around it. And so I'm really excited that we're going to move that way. Because then it becomes distributed knowledge. And I think we're going to be launching some group programming as well. I've asked my community of people that I really respect to come in and serve in this group model. The responses I get to the podcast when we start dealing, especially in the emotional side, have been unreal. I think there's now a craving for how do I be better? How do I be better as a human? How do I be better as a responder? Whatever it might be. And so, I think we're going to move to create kind of that safe space where we can actually have a conversation that matters and really elevate the game. So the foundation as a primary source is basically taking it all to the digital space, and then we'll supplement that when we get back to normalcy with the talks and getting out to the departments.
Are you at a position yet to be able to share what some of that virtual content looks like? I mean,
Yeah.
not necessarily show it, but just kind of talk through it.
Yeah. So, I realized that and you get this, as the SME, you know too much. you know? And it becomes very hard. I mean, operational mindset has been taught in 2-hour segments to 3-day segments, right? So there's a whole breadth of things. What has been most difficult for me personally is to be my own critic and shrink that down to a 10-minute spot or a 20-minute spot. And so I asked some great people to come in and really help me, who are perfect at like extracting things out of our brain and putting it into formats. So we're taking the operational mindset program, the operational resiliency, the leaders program, and we're breaking them down so they are really at 10-minute segments. So there'll be 10-minute video lessons with then access to the research or the deep dive materials. There'll also be, if you're an officer in the station, you want to use it for in-station training, there'll be questions you can ask, right? Already pre-prompted. And then I'm working on like, what's the scenario? How do you integrate meditation into drag and hose lines? And so I'm working on some really unique scenario-based training for the departments out there. Because I've had a lot of requests around that. It's like, Jeff, this is great stuff. How do I teach my people? How do I do these things? And so I'm a little bit of a weird bird when it comes to those things. So I will do things like, take a primary search and then turn that into a breathing and actual focused meditation, almost situational awareness in a way, evolution that they can then implement out in the field and have more depth to it besides just, hey, let's go do a search. Mm-hmm. So that's what's going on with it.
And pre-pandemic, what was the things that you were doing looking like? How did that
function?
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't want to stay around that word so much, but how did that function?
Well, yeah, I mean, basically what we were, we started, I created the foundation April of last year. We got our status back a lot faster than I expected. Normally it's about a year to get your 501c3. We got it back in 37 days. So I was blown away by that. So we really started to kind of put action in place fourth quarter of last year. We did some talks, we did some training, we did, the Firehouse conferences on both coasts. We launched the podcast last year, which was a major, move for us, bringing a new conversation to the audience. We've done some online work with a couple departments when they've reached out to us and not able to be directly there, just like this, Zoom meetings, etc. But then we did a couple we brought kind of regions. I would show up in the region and then people would come in for the half day or the day seminar, basically, much like you get out and in normal times, train, do the seminar. And that was the first primary effort, right? And then this event has caused us to really pull back and look to see how we can do this really effectively. The scenario stuff and those things, that was planned for a rollout maybe at the beginning of 2021. And I'm hoping that we'll have the rollout here within the next 60 days, full tilt for everybody.
And talk a little bit more about what it means to have an operational mindset for somebody who works in high-risk environments.
Yeah, I think, this was interesting. When I, at the agency, in the normal weapons programs, so in the normal, block course, M4 course, there was a class that was about an hour, and it was titled Combat Mindset. And it was kind of a hodgepodge of things out there and an attempt to provide people some level of mental constructs before the environments they would step into. And being kind of the guy that I am, I was like, wait a minute, none of these people are going to combat. Nobody in this room needs a combat mindset. And if we're giving a course on mindset and the title slide is highly misrepresenting what we're trying to accomplish, what are we doing? And so when I went back and really started looking, the focus was to say, okay, how do we transition out of this? I'm going to combat idea. I'm going to do this. There's enough guys out there that'll teach about the roughness of life, and it's integrated in the program. But I wanted to take a step back. I wanted to look at how we operate in the world, or on the fire ground, or in the firehouse, or as a law enforcement officer, or as an EMS provider, whatever it may be, because that is our operational environment, right? And so I wanted to be able to expand the conversation outside of just what it looks like to be in a crucial, critical moment in time. What are the things, you and I spoke about this. What are the factors that lead up to you not seeing what is happening, right? To not being present, not being available to the conditions and the rapid change in the conditions. And so that's where I wanted to take the conversation, because it's a scientific and emotional look at us as a human being in the context of that operational space. Not drilled into something, right? Not cornered into, oh, well, that's combat. There's there's a whole biological and mental conflict with an analyst sitting in a room taking a combat mindset class who doesn't want to be training on a gun anyway. Now I'm telling the guy that he's got to be ready to be, in this combat. Wrong answer. We watched it just have a significant negative impact on the audience and miss completely. And then when we were able to shift it to something that said, hey, you're going to be in a high stress environment. You may even be in a combat environment. What does that look like? How do you, in your context, operate in that space? And so that's kind of what it broke down to. I love it. I love it. I love it from the look of a firefighter to an officer to a driver, right? From a truck company to an engine company. Like, those are all micro operational spaces that you've got to be able to explore. And that's what I love about the program, because it gives the listener or the participant the freedom to explore their space in the program, if that makes sense to you.
Sure.
Yeah.
The stuff that you're working on now, or the transitioning it to be a virtual format, when does that roll out?
I'm hoping, I'd like to see it in the next 30 days. I've given myself a 60-day window just for editing and cutting and, whatever else may have to come into play. But we've been cranking on it. I actually got the first draft about mindset broken into segments the other day. So that's my day when we clear out of here, reviewing that, and then putting the teaching points to it and the scenarios to it and the questions to it. So we're cranking. And we'll launch them when they come, right? We started with Operation Mindset, then we'll do resiliency, then we'll do leaders. But we'll just push them the minute it's available. And I'm a firm believer, even if it's about 60% right, we'll get it out there. And I'll let the community call me back and be like, hey, Jeff, this is wrong here. You need to fix this. And we'll ebb and flow. I don't have any ego about that. That's okay.
And is this going to be like a membership site, or how's this going to be sold to the?
So it's completely free to the users. It's all funded. It's all funded through donations, and it's all funded through right now private donations. And so from a department standpoint, it's free. It's 100% free. It's available to the people that are there. And we'll have a registration system for it to validate who they are. But other than that, that's my mission. That's my commitment now. And I really, because I've been involved in so many different communities, I've lost too many people over the years. And I really hit a wall and said, we need to do something now. And you and I talked about this before. I think I can't start talking about resiliency without talking about the operational environment, without helping the men and women out there be better at their job. And when I can do that, I can open the gateway to talk about how to be better at home and better transitions and more effective and really collapse the worlds we live in. You know, we live between these two worlds, this high risk operational give all environment, and then this high need, high pull, support and love my family environment. And often those can be a conflict and we can struggle with those and those can tear us apart. And so we just exist in this space where we're never really all the way in one or the other. And the programming and the effort is really how do I align those and just bring together one core world that I'm just able to ebb and flow through and be highly effective in both at all times.
If you were to offer one lesson that the listener and viewer could benefit from, that they would get from this content that you're going to be putting online, tease them with something that would make them want to go and get more.
Yeah, I think this is I think at the core of all of it, let me think for a second, make sure it's my one. A lot of there.
You didn't know this question was coming. So
I didn't. What do you think about one? Oh. I think it would be this, because I think this is one of the areas, this is like it's where things start to split, right? This is the hairline crack. And that is the understanding your individual perception of stress. So, I see the look on your face. Here's what I mean by that. Okay. I'm a firm believer from study, from algorithms, from data. Every single one of us perceives and processes stressors differently. Completely and almost radically differently. We did a study where we had data from combat operations and compared it to data from a really awful day on the stock exchange floor, heart rate variability data. And if I just put the data up in front of you, you would look at it and I said, who is in combat? You would choose the stock exchange floor every time. Because for operators, for top tier operators that step into combat, there aren't the fears and the worries and the things that are already in a zone. They're operating inside a level of comfort that they want versus the threat of losing millions of dollars and the trickle down effect of that and the impact that's going to have on them and how they perceive what that means about them. It's horrendous, really. It's absolutely horrendous. And so being able to look at this in a lot of different ways, what I've consistently found is the way we process, internalize, or move through stress, and stress is not a bad thing in every context, is so critically important because it's going to be the indicator of where the central nervous system goes, how the body begins to react, my awareness points, right? My cognitive abilities. It's going to start to, I talk about the cognitive aperture a lot of times. And in a high stress environment, we're constantly fighting to keep that aperture as open as we can. And understanding how it's impacting me gives me that ability. So I would say we do a pretty deep conversation around that. And it's probably one thing that most people miss or misunderstand that can radically change how they perform across every aspect of their life.
Good answer for not having prepped for it.
I teach this program for about 15 years, Rich. I know it.
If the listener or viewer wanted to learn more about your offerings, where would they go to learn more?
So 2 places, 2 entry points. You could go to opmindset.org. That's opmindset.org. That's the foundation aspect. And then there are communication tools in there. That's going to change up a little bit when we launch these programs, but you can send me a note there. Or mindsetradio.com is the podcast. And then the Mindset Radio is available on all the outlets, all the Apple and Google and Spotify and everybody. It's all out there everywhere. So, and I stay pretty accessible. I mean, I get notes daily, Instagram, Facebook, and from all over. We've got a huge base in Canada. We've got a huge base in Australia. Uh, England actually is a lot. Ireland got a lot of people in Ireland that reach out and communicate. So it's been interesting. It's been a very interesting look to see how this has flown. Come out for a while.
And if somebody wanted to reach you, is there a contact me tab on the opmindset.org website?
Yeah, you can plug through it. There's a spot to send me a note. I'm just Jeff at opmindset.org or Jeff at Mindset Radio. It's Mindset Radio on Instagram, and I think it's like Mindset_radio on Twitter. I don't know. I'm not a Twitter guy. I know some of you are. I can't get there. One day when somebody else can manage it, they can deal with it. It will be on Twitter effectively, but or Facebook. It's I think it's Mindset Radio Podcast or the Operation Mindset Foundation, or the Op Mindset Foundation is the actual, at on Facebook. So okay. I'm definitely out there all over the place, or just Google me. You'll find me.
Yeah. It's not hard. Outstanding. Well, thank you for taking some time today to sit and chat with me, but it's like time is all any of us have right now. with the social distancing, quarantining and everything. But still, I appreciate you taking some time to sit and chat with me and be able to share the operational mindset with our listeners and viewers. And I will put in the show notes how they can find you. I'll put the links to both, or the locations of both the website and the podcast in there. So thanks.
You got to get on and listen to yours because it was good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And I have an episode on Jeff's podcast as well. That like I said, I think we did that maybe a year ago or so.
I can't remember how. I don't know if he was even. I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah. I don't either.
It was great.
With the pandemic, the entire concept of time has shifted.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. All right, Jeff. Thank you so much.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff, for sharing some of your time with us today to talk about the Operational Mindset Foundation. If you'd like to learn more, I will put a link to the Foundation's website in the show notes. Since 2007, SA Matters instructors have helped more than 1,200 organizations and 87,000 individuals improve high-risk decision-making, including first responders, industrial workers, military personnel, business leaders, medical professionals, utility workers, highway workers, aviation workers, oil refinery operators, and many, many more. If you or someone you care about works in a high-risk, high-consequence, decision-making environment, then we are here to help to improve their safety and their survival, and to help them accomplish the most important mission of all, and that is to go home to the ones who love them. Normally, this is the part of the show where I would thank the organizations that have hosted recent Situational Awareness Matters programs, and where I would share a list of the upcoming programs on the horizon. But the pandemic and social distancing rules have caused all of my live events to be postponed. So if you don't mind, I'd like to take a short walk down memory lane and thank some of the organizations that were hosting programs this time last year. The Maryland Fire Chiefs Association, the Scott Township Fire Department in Evansville, Indiana, the Fast 19 Conference in Nashville, Tennessee, the Buckley Fire Department in Washington State, and the Washington State Fire Chiefs Association, the Safety Institute Annual Conference in Syncrude, Canada. All of our events, past, virtual, postponed, and future, are all listed on the SA Matters website. If you're interested in seeing a list of where we've been or where we're going, just head over to the site and click on the Program Dates tab under Live Training at the top of the homepage. If you're interested in hosting a program virtually or when the pandemic's over, live, just click the Contact Us tab at the top of the SA Matters homepage, and I will give you a call. Remember to check the show notes, too, for how to subscribe to our newsletter and how to follow us on social media. There we're sharing ideas about how to improve situational awareness, how to make better decisions under stress, and how to be critical thinkers and resilient problem solvers. Well, that's it. Episode 322 of the Situational Awareness Matters show is complete. Thank you again to my guest, Jeff Banman. Thank you to our amazing Platinum sponsor, now for more than 5 years, Midwest Fire. Thank you to our feature segment sponsor, the Gasaway Virtual Training. And thank you to our associate sponsor, Chief Miller. And most importantly, thank you, the listeners and viewers of this show, for sharing some of your valuable time with us today. I really appreciate your support of the SA Matters mission. Be safe out there, and may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters show with Dr. Richard Gasaway. If you're interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit his website, samatters.com. If you're interested in booking Dr. Gasaway for a program, or if you would like to be a guest on his show, click the Contact Us tab at the top of the homepage.